And of course, as always, we want everybody to know that whatever is discussed on the show is the opinion of our guests and don't necessarily reflect our official policy. Although I do have to say, if we say something, maybe it does reflect something for me and or myself. And so don't. Somebody says something bad or politically incorrect, don't hold us to them in perpetuity. Or if we say something politically incorrect, it's not our fault. To just post a question, and we've got some questions we've written down. But today is an open show and open forum, and we'll just run with it. And of course, thank you for joining us. And today we're going to try and sell you whatever we can sell you. What the heck?
If you want to understand, they're the highest gross profit per square foot of any retailer. And this book is a game changer. It's by Carmine Gallo. Highly recommend. Because I know BMW tried this with the BMW Genius and they kind of let it fall off, but this book is a game changer. Like, it really is.
I heard the guy who was the kind of the vision for the store podcast, and it was really interesting because we look at it now and go, oh, they crush it. That's big. He was talking about when they first launched and how they had like a mock-up in an airport, and Steve Jobs would come over like every 3 weeks, walk through it and go, no, and like change it all. And they would be all excited. They were like, we got it fixed. And he said, this is the thing that I think about that's so crazy. They had one product when they launched, and they were terrified. The guy, he's like, internally, he's like, I was terrified because we had made this huge thing. We had one thing we could sell inside the store. And he's like, I got a call before we opened and I was terrified. And there were lines around the block, right? And it's the same thing where you think, why can't buying a car is an exciting experience. Somebody touched on it.
And to your point,
it's exciting.
And to your point, it's the exact same person buying that phone that's buying a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
And so this isn't some unicorn customer that they've managed to find and train. It's the exact same human being.
Well, look at the stores today in the pandemic. I was downtown Vancouver. They have a store in the mall. Even with all the challenges in their new process, they still got people lined up. Oh yeah, I gotta wear a mask. I gotta get a temperature check. I gotta sign a sheet. I gotta do this. I gotta book a time. They're still lined up. They're still like, yeah, when can I see something?
But here's what's funny with that.
It's hilarious.
You told me the other day where you went into a store.
Yeah, I was looking to buy a monitor.
No, not Apple. Because you go to the Apple store and they got security out front, they got stanchions, they got somebody sitting there saying, what brings you here before you come in the store? Let's sanitize you, let's spray you down, let's put your mask on. And then you go into the store, but they're greeting you in front. You told me you went to a store the other day. You had a dealership, you had to ring a bell at the door, wait for somebody to come in, and then they directed you to a service entrance, and you waited and nobody took care of you.
Well, it's a Lexus store.
Oh.
So right near my house, and they've got a big, on the glass on the side, they've got this big sign, Experience Amazing, that's on the glass, by the way. So you walk around, all the doors are locked. So eventually I got to the door and there's a sign. Oh, if you want to come in, call us and we'll let you in the store. And I was like, really?
They're about to have a record month in the wrong way.
Really? Experience Amazing? That ain't amazing, dude. Like, what are you doing?
And I went with you to that store because you told me about it. And I went with Ian. We had the same experience. We walked in, and unfortunately, the salesperson that we had to greet us either was not used to having to meet somebody or just was too new, because it goes, oh, hi, welcome. What are you here for? And Ian goes, well, I want to look at some cars. Okay. What do you want to look at? And again, this is a Lexus store, and this store's got a very successful operation. And I think one of the things that is affecting us in this industry is we try something new. So we try the no haggling. Yeah, we try the Apple Store experience. Let's get everybody to wear blue t-shirts for a day. Okay, a month. It didn't work. So what do? All right, call Charlie, who we fired last month, bring him back, tell him we'll pay him 40%. And we go back to the old thing. It's the same old,
the one thing that jumps out in that story, back to what Stephen was saying, Jobs, who put it all on the line for that, came in and blew it up. How many times? I don't know what the number is, but say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. He was prepared to make it perfect and right. And he was prepared to have it die on his sword if he made the wrong decision with whatever it was. So he was prepared to blow it up. There is no way in any reasonable conversation that anyone with any authority has gone through the Lexus process and said, okay, I'm going to just come in as a customer tomorrow morning and just see how this works, right? There's no way he did or she did. Like, and it's just, that's where the unfortunate part is.
Well, but interestingly enough, Barry, in 2019, I went to Tokyo and then I went to Shanghai as part of my MBA. So I actually went to a Lexus store in Tokyo, owned by Lexus. And what I can tell you is the experience was vastly different in Tokyo than it was in North America. And it was nothing but respectful the entire time. Like the sales, the people on service came out from around the counter to say thank you for coming in, right? It was a completely different experience. And the thing that was funny was I also went to some car dealers in Shanghai. I went to their car museum and I went to some car dealerships. The car dealership experience in Shanghai was the same as North America. just different language, but the same thing, with the exception of QR codes and a few other things. But when you go to the Tesla store in Tokyo or the Lucid store in Shanghai, those stores are very similar as they are here, right? So it was kind of interesting to see that high level experience is possible if you insist upon it. And I think we had this discussion on a previous show, like if McDonald's said, okay, you can make the hamburger any way you want. You don't want to put pickles on it, we don't care. You bought the franchise, do whatever. That's basically what we do in North America with car dealers. Like, yeah, as long as the signage says General Motors, like whatever, like sell cars, all the best.
Well, and it's funny you say that because, one of the good examples is a restaurant industry. And there's obviously going to be different restaurants north and south of the border. But if you go into a restaurant that actually sits you down and it's a franchise restaurant, the napkin is in the same spot, whether you're in Austin or you're in Vancouver, and the glass is in the same spot and the coffee cup is in the same spot. That is how you set a table in that franchise. And to Ian's point, we just kind of let it go wingy and say, okay, here's all your plates and dishes, do what you want with them. And there is no really clear process of this is how it's going to happen.
Oh, but you have to buy the tiles we tell you got to buy.
Yeah, those tiles are
And the
Tiles
color.
are an amazing one. I love that one.
And iPads everywhere. Have you seen the new Nissan look? Wow.
Well, here's the perfect proof about this whole thing on this business. The Saturn model did exceptionally well. People were happy with, and they were crummy cars. Let's not kid each other. And even Teslas right now, they're not that great a car, but they're happy. But guess what? The first opportunity GM had to look at what do we do here, they cut Saturn and they kept Buick.
Yeah. And what was interesting is like the owner was making at that point, and we're going back, 25 years, he was making, I think, $1,600 per copy easily, plus all the other stuff that we were doing at the time, whether it was F&I or whatever the case may be. But that was just a given. He knew that if he sold 80 cars, it was going to be this much gross. It wasn't, well, we'll see, or they held a sale, or they did this, or they blew a bunch of cars out because they were behind target, or whatever the case may be. That was just the number, because that's how much gross was built into the car.
$13,000 cars.
Yeah. Yeah. We're selling $12,000 to $15,000 cars. Like, he was rolling it, loving it, right?
But
An interesting comment from Christy. General decline in the customer-centric attitude. And I would tend to agree that when I bought cars 20 years ago, and I've been in the business over 20 years, I found that there was a little bit more focus on the customer than even there is today. Like I would say that the reason people have gone online isn't just COVID or isn't just the internet. It's that they just genuinely don't feel the salespeople add enough value.
Yeah.
They just don't add any value. It's like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to get beat up by a salesman. They're going to try and charge me 6 fees and overcharge me for the car and undercharge for mine. I mean, I was looking at a dealership website last night. It happens to be a BMW franchise. They have 4 fees on their website. No, 1 fee. They got 4 random fees. There's a finance fee, an admin fee, an F&I fee, and then a handling fee on used cars. But the thing that was funny wasn't that. It's like, oh, our offer is $1,500 in free payments, but we're paying for it by charging you all these fees.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had a friend of mine who referred to them as hot dog fee.
Yeah. I mean, $1,500 in fees, and you're giving me 3 payments worth $1,500. Okay, so you're basically not giving me anything.
Yeah.
You know, and if you went to that said, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I'm hearing all my stuff from my pitch deck to investors from my training app. But what I used to say that was really interesting, and I worked for Carfax for a long time, so that's where part of my brain comes from. But like, if you think about the technology out there on the consumer side, you said something like Carfax, Kelly Blue Book, Edmunds. There's tons of companies who've done a great job of educating consumers about buying a car and technology in a car. But when you go into a dealership, nobody's done that on the dealer side. Like, there's no technology. Like, a CRM is not a training tool. It doesn't make me a better salesperson. No. So to your point, like when a customer comes in, they are so much better educated about the product than the salesperson, and experience, because they know financing rate, like they know everything because technology's helped them. And so, yeah, the salesperson is like,
check out this app. It's called TD Wheels from TD Bank. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And so
it allows you to build your own car deal on the app and then give them the financing.
Right.
It's like unbelievable. I'm looking at this the other day. I'm showing it to a finance manager. I said, you need to know about this. She goes, why? I go, because they don't need you anymore. They can select their car, get a trade value. They can select the new car. They even know which brand to buy because they get better rates. They have better rates on new cars sometimes than the manufacturer. It's insane. And you can do it all in an app in the store.
And Stephen, it's interesting you say that, because I was on the floor when some of this technology started to roll out. And the whole culture, and Jeff's nodding his head, the whole culture was, how do we fight it? How do we beat it? How do we get around it? How do we ignore it? Whatever
how do we
the
not
thing
take
was.
those tests? Can we pay someone to do that for us?
But I worked for Carfax for 12 years, and I was dealer facing for large groups. And it was really interesting, the arc. Like when I first started, we just started getting accidents, and dealers, exactly what you said, like they would fight. Why are you putting this? Stop putting this. And by the time I left, they were yelling at me because we weren't putting enough information about the accidents on the reports. I was like, wow, things sure have changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
and so the culture of the higher level is still that, how do we fight this? How do we trick them into it? How do we tell them about the fees? How do we not tell them and put it into the financing? And how do we do all these things behind the scenes? And, you know, all the stuff that we're all accused of, or our industry's accused of. And, you know, we've been trying to fight this for so long. And meanwhile, the customer's just like, I'd just like to buy a car, please.